Hi, I'm Renata Bernarde, and this is the Job Hunting Podcast, where I interview experts and professionals and discuss issues that are important for job hunters and those who are working to advance their careers. So make sure that you subscribe and follow, and let's dive right in. I have just finished interviewing Catherine Lopes. Catherine Lopes is the head of AI for Me Bank, a bank here in Australia. And we first met when she was head of AI for AGL being an energy company here in Australia. And she hosted an event at AGL for Lean in Melbourne. It was my first event with Lean in Melbourne, and we were both speakers for that event. I will make a link to the video of both of us speaking so that you can have a look and listen to us talking about confidence and personal development. But today I interviewed Catherine about her profession and her involvement with data science and data scientists and all of the work that she does mentoring and supporting that amazing community. She has worked for very large organizations. She has been an academic, done her PhD, and worked in different countries, and has an amazing day-to-day working not only for Me Bank, but also for her 3 startups, one of them being a social enterprise, Tribe, that she has just set up to support women that are data scientists and want to advance in their careers. So if you are one of them, please make sure that you link to Tribe and start participating in their events wherever you are in the world. Everything is virtual these days, as you know. But Catherine also posts regularly on LinkedIn and provides a lot of great content that is quite unique and original, because as a data scientist, she's always collating data and posting about the data that she collates. And many of them are to do with careers in data science. So if this is something of interest to you, if you are a data scientist yourself, or if you have any interest in data and you might want to reskill and understand how to work with data scientists, how to manage them, work alongside them, or become one of them, I think Catherine Lopes is someone you should follow and definitely listen to this podcast. And if there is anything that I can do for you once you listen to this podcast to support you in your career transition, in your job hunting, please don't hesitate to contact me. You can follow me wherever you found this podcast. This podcast will be a video as well, so you can see us on YouTube and on my blog, or you can listen to us as you always do on iTunes, Spotify, and again on my blog. Keep in touch, follow, subscribe, give me a review. I'd love to get more reviews. It will certainly help others like you find this podcast. And good luck with your job hunting. But for now, here's Catherine Lopes. Yes. How have you been? Are you working from home?
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm working from home. So
you don't have to go into Me Bank. You can work from home.
I have been going for once a week.
Okay.
But this time, when the second round, they started this grid, like stage 3. So from there, I didn't go, but maybe next week I go there one time.
So nice to see you.
I know, me too.
Yeah,
I am so excited, and finally something is for a change. And like Leo was like, "Oh, finally you wash your hair."
Well, I haven't washed mine, as you can tell. It's in a ponytail for a reason.
But looks good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we haven't really, tried anything, but I'm feeling exhausted even by working from home.
Yeah, me too. I don't know why, because I'm doing less and less, and I'm still tired.
Oh, we're doing, Leo and I, we both were doing, I think, much more than before. It's like it never stops. So from morning 8 o'clock then until midnight, you would just say, you're working constantly.
Yeah, you're right. I'm always thinking about work, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm always thinking about
Yeah, I think for us, it's basically, it's not to say thinking about it, it's the volume of work.
yeah. But for the podcast, we
Yeah.
need to talk about you and your career.
Oh, I read your questions. Every
Did
single
you?
one is really good. And
Oh,
I have,
good.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't have anything else. I think the lot of topics you put it there. There's some question you asked me in the, like say what social media thing you want to promote. And I do want to promote the Others Tribe. So we officially launched the Others Tribe now.
What
It's
is it called?
oh,
Others. Others.
Ada Lovelace. Ada, my daughter's name, right? Ada's
Others tribe.
tribe. Yes,
Okay.
Ada's
Okay.
tribe. And so this is a community for supporting female in data science and analytics.
Okay. Do you have a website? How are you? Yeah.
So we are building a website, and
Yeah.
we already soft-launched with a group of people. We got all the volunteers, and we ran first session already, and then the second session we're coming up as a meetup is on job interview. I was thinking about to actually, so we maybe make it as a series, like a
Uh-huh.
series. So for you, I was hoping actually I didn't contact you early on. Hoping if you can come as one of our speakers. So we have
Of
three
course.
right now, and but I hope you can do the one as a senior level. So
Okay.
yeah, so the other there are different stage of the
Yeah.
career. Yeah,
Of
so
course I would say yes. You know that. Put me in.
yes, and we got really good feedback. I didn't. So even we soft launched about 20 people together.
Yeah.
Then immediately we got so many people reached out, say, "Well, how are we going to join?" And say, "Okay, let's roll it out."
Yeah, of course. No, I'm happy to do it. Just send me the date. Now,
Awesome.
talking about leaders, let's talk
Yep.
about you. How did you get where you are now as head of AI of a major bank in Australia with two startups going, plus a what others tribe is a social enterprise going? You do so much. Tell the listeners of this podcast how you got to the stage where you are now.
Well, I think for me, I do think where I am now is through a combination of you, um, first of all, hardworking. So that's work ethic, and that's having. I think this is from I have been taught by my parents and also people who I grew up or the society, the community I grew up with, and a hardworking work ethics. But that's alone won't lead me to where I am. Is where you find something you love to do. Where and at beginning perhaps is not at beginning of your career and you not necessarily know exactly where you want to go, but something will click and during your study and during your working experience. So then for me is like from beginning, and I have been working in the area where in the data where I found really interesting. This is a combination many skills and keep learning. So this is a part where is you need the gas, but you also need the motivation. So you need a gasoline to keep you going, and you need a motivation to keep you going further and further, right? So I think this is a part where I am went through the journey from studying the data, then working with the data, and also work in different domains and a different environment or let's say different industries. So you will
Yeah.
find somewhere you like. And I think you make a milestone of a goal of you challenge yourself as well. So like I like to challenge myself. And with basically you set a goal, what you have done and what you want to do, and you achieve it, then is that enough? And for me, it's not enough. So that's where from academia and I moved to industry, then juggle between these. this tool. Then when I was formally settled down in industry, and I see myself in the same pattern, and I went to consulting, and I went to, that's on the software industry, and I went to in-house of building business and using data. So I think that this is a pattern of what I observed to myself, what I'm doing. So then after the 20 years, and then say, I found, well, entrepreneurship is something part of I find it is in me, how I do things. Some people call agile way. But for me, I haven't really engaged into the startup, and I was always curious about it. So that's where actually I challenged myself one more step and went out my Zoom, and that's where I had started with the tool.
Well, what I think is super impressive about you, and I'd love to hear how you do it. A lot of people wonder how others do what they do, but you are so hardworking, and you manage to pack so much. How do you actually manage your time and decide what you're going to spend your energy on and what you're not going to spend your energy on? And I think this is important for this reason. I see clients of mine and people in my community of followers focusing 150% on their jobs and giving 150% on their jobs, but they never seem to be able to step away to focus on their career, step away to focus on applying for a promotion or applying for another job. So you seem to be very good at identifying where to spend your energies to advance, and it comes naturally to you. So how do you do that?
Actually, I won't take that as come naturally to me because I think I learned. I was definitely one of the kind of person you're talking about. So I give more than 100%, that's for sure. And if I could, that's, I remember when I was doing my PhD at that time, and they other people call me 7-Eleven, so they never see me always before 7 and after 11.
Okay.
And I think this is about you accumulate enough quantity, but you make the change. So I was one of these people, actually myself perhaps, is now just to be more conscious and compared to before, is I can do things and I will just keep my head down and constantly and do the thing, but don't think a few steps ahead. And so that's later on. So there is a combination. One of my kind of mentor, or when I got trouble, right? I got into trouble, and I got into trouble, and I had a frustration and said, what I'm doing wrong, or where do I want to go? And so one thing my mentor told me, say, you work hard, but you have to not always keep your heads down, and you have to keep your heads up as well. So look around where you are now and think, stop for a moment. Stop for a moment. I think for me, was really pause and stop for a moment. Think, is that what you're working on? Is on the direction towards your goal. So I think this is really helped me, not in terms of manage the time, because time management is a different set of skill, but strategically, and I have never actually think about it. This is a strategy, but now I'm thinking more and more. I think many of your listeners and many people there, maybe you should think about it. Where do you want to go?
Yes.
What are you doing? Is this what you're doing will contribute or make any step towards where what your goal is? Of course, the situation could change dramatically, just like the COVID-19. No matter how hard you're working, or you design a really good strategy, things happen, and you got to be flexible. So sometimes I think is you drive, sometimes the environment drive you.
Yes. What I like about the way that you position yourself is even though you're doing all these different things, they're all very consistent. They're all aligned and they're adding to your brand as a specialist in AI, data analytics, data. So every time that you participate in something new, it's still very much around your expertise. And when I see your LinkedIn, all your posts are also aligned with your expertise. And I think that it makes it easier for people to know how to connect with you and what to contact you for. If they need help, they know that they can come to you for your expertise. So why don't you explain to the listeners your expertise and how important that is in this world post-COVID?
Well, I think let's put it that way. If you read, there are a lot of articles talking about the companies now trying to build their employees into a T shape. So I think that is, I learned the T shape early on, not to say early on in my career, but in mid of my career, I understood that is the way I want to build my career is along where I love the most and where I can contribute the most. But in the meantime, of course, you have to build a horizontal bar where it gives you the exposure, right? Exposure. However, you do need to have a T, which is the depth. When you have your depth, where that's for me is for, I am an end-to-end data and analytics professional. And so I went through from the end of understand the business problem translated to the data problem, and you can process the data, then you can engineer the data, you can push it out. So that is a T where at everywhere, the bigger data, this space is really broad. There covers a lot of touch on the technology, touch on the business. In the last 10 years, I have focused on my building the T, which is after I found that where is most out of the entire spectrum in data space, the fascinating topic for me is still in the data science. Data science itself is already very, very broad. Mm-hmm. And you can apply any different angle. Of course, this is a multidisciplinary field. So that is the thing which is enable me stay in one field, but I still have the flexibility to do many different things.
Yes, you're not going to get bored anytime soon.
No, that's for sure.
And every time I open LinkedIn or any newspapers today, it's all about how governments and organizations are planning to reskill their workforce for to be able to work with data, to understand data, and to be able to be data scientists or to work with data science. So what do you see is exaggerated in those statements, and what is true? What is it that people that are in the workforce, in the corporate sector or not-for-profit or public sector, what do they need to know about how their work is going to change in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, that they would need to adjust their skills for?
I think this is the two things, right? And so prior, although we are still in the COVID-19 pandemic, but the data science and the machine learning and the AI went through a hype in the past 5 years. So that's, you see a lot of gadgets and a lot of fancy things came out, and you see on the YouTube and you see on anywhere. But there is not many of them actually being successfully productionized and be used broadly. And also the value for a broader sense of business have been realized. So this is a part where I say, people don't really understand the depth, or there is only the part. So I got questions saying, what do you say the data science and machine learning AI for my company? That's a question quite often. And I think people think about it, I would say, this is a hype. However, and more organizations have realized that data is really, really the key for them to make the business moving forward. So because the data actually, so I can tell you that even during the COVID time, there are a lot of historical patterns and what you understood, it doesn't exist anymore. So then, and the people are making guess, and based on the experience, same problem apply to the machine learning models they build, because machine learning models are built based on the historical data. And a lot of people who work in the industry, in the company, they have their knowledge before this different situation, like, so now they are actually asking for, say, that's our strategy. However, we need to have the data to analyze what is happening before and what is happening now to work out a strategy. It's data-driven strategy.
Okay.
So that's the part where I think it is true. So now I'm seeing, looking around and hearing a lot, the companies realize and asking for data. And also they are not being so many. A change I can see is before they have their mindset or hypothesis. See, can you validate this? They're just using the data to validate their hypothesis or what they want to do. They'll say, okay, I did this. Can you validate and so prove I'm right?
Right.
So now, and there is a shift. So there is a shift that people will come to you with open questions. So here is my problem. Here is my problem statement. Are there anything you can see from the data and help us to give us some insight? And we're working through to build a strategy and adapt quickly.
Yeah.
So that's the part I think, it is, I certainly see in the last couple months.
Yes, I find it fascinating. And when I think of data like that, I don't see it so much as a STEM-only issue. I see it as something that could really include professionals from other areas, like from sociology, anthropology, psychology, education, to help businesses and R&D organizations develop better ways to collect and analyze data, correct? I don't see that discussion happening a lot in Australia at the moment. I see it overseas, and I see it being actioned, not just discussed, but actioned overseas, but not here. What do you think about that? And the recent announcement, for example, that some of the humanities courses would have a bigger HEX fees than the courses that are STEM related. And it just feels like there's this disconnect between that need to have a more holistic approach to how the data science as a program as a thing that needs to be developed more holistically will have to be done in Australia. Am I right? Sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but
no, that's fine. So I can break this down. So this is a big topic. There's a few things you covered. So this I think let's talk about the one you mentioned about the government. I think that's the changing fee structure, and in order to attract students into university and to try to balance it, all right. So that is one thing I think I don't think that's it. I think this is a temporary, looks like it's tactical thing government proposed. And then by addressing this, it is true. Any actions they are doing, I think this, especially now during the COVID-19, I don't know what the policy is, how they planned in the long term.
Yes.
But the intention is try to balance and bring more people who work STEM related. Yes. So I think I always say intention is good, but how they're going to roll out and how the impact will, it take 4 years for the graduate and how the job market to land, and it will take a longer time for us to realize. However, yeah, and so the other topic you were talking about, which is definitely true. I think data and also data science is not only a STEM limited. So for example, the STEM limited and for example, the ethics, right? The data ethics. And I attended a few discussion and panel discussion talk about how shall we teach the programmers ethics? And I said yes, and I will say I will promote that. And therefore, it's not only the governance, it's the ethics, because you're not a robotic, right? So this is so I think in one way you have to get people who are working on the data science to know more, because awareness of what the data science people are working on and what the model you produced could have downstream impact in the society. Which is, if you are not aware, if you cannot work in isolated like a real robot, right? So if you tell me and then to write A, I will write A, although the A, if I write A in my code and I'm going to have a consequences is to punish somebody else, which is unfairly. So we need to I think infuse. I think this is we really need to bring the other disciplines and into the people who are working in data science. In the meantime, the data science, or maybe let's talk about the data, is much broader, because I think in many of the STEM disciplines, and then they heavily being technical, and you have to work using data, and you have to collect the data and you prove it, right? So there is a lot of humanity and social science, and also the philosophical questions. It's not something which is you are using data to prove a theory. It is different to the discipline is different. However, and the data what you are collecting, and like the election, in the social science. So they're very data driven. They are very data driven. You know where to actually to promote. And then they are doing the exercise in driving the social movement, even with where if you have your data and you have insights, and you can be more targeted orientated.
Yes. It's fascinating. So basically, we now live in a world where data is king. Data is going to be used to help us live better, and also it could steer us in different directions. And the idea of having data scientists trained in ethics is a good one, because it allows the issues to be picked up at that ground level, right? How much, from a leadership position and that level of seniority and where the strategies are being made, so how much is that part of the discussion at that level as well?
I think this is again a mixed bag, and is quite often is by industry as well, right? So some of industry, they do have a lot of I think where financial industry, especially in Australia, is quite is ahead of many other. We're not talking about the tech industry. The reason is they have a lot of regulations, and they do have a lot of tough, very strict rules applied, right? But in many other markets where other industry perhaps is not. So you will say, at least in my observation, the major financial industry, the players, and then they are in Australia, they are ahead of a curve. compared to other industry,
Okay.
realize that data is really important. And I'm not saying that they will. So this, for example, NZ, the CDO just got promoted to the executive level, which is report to the CEO. So you can see that is the importance of they realize this role or this function is really key for the organization to moving forward.
Yeah. Do you find sometimes people in organizations don't see a problem as it being a data-driven problem? I'll give you an example. I also work as a consultant, and I was once called upon a large organization in Australia to come in and help them deal with a cultural. I'm doing this to show that it wasn't cultural. A cultural issue where there was a lot of duplication of work being done by different departments. And they wanted me to come in to facilitate some discussions between those individuals that had similar jobs in different departments, and they were duplicating work for the organization. And I said, that's great. I'd love to come in. Can I bring my colleague? So in the consultancy, I have Diego, who is an expert in robotic process automation. Can I bring an RPA consultant who is a colleague of mine just to observe and see if there's any opportunity for us to discuss that? And they said, oh, no, this is a cultural issue for sure. We don't need an RPA expert. And they surely did. They did. It was completely an issue that the organization was so big and diverse, and having some sort of cheap, bot system working there would be much easier than trying to convey to all of these different individuals that they were duplicating work. But I think people have this misunderstanding that something like RPA would just replace everyone's jobs. When in fact, none of those individuals that were quite senior in their roles had that specific task as part of their job description. So they weren't actually doing what they were supposed to do, which was a much more creative relationship management type role in bringing in new business and doing business development, because they were bogged down into doing all of this paperwork in the background, and they were all doing very similar things across different departments. And I thought that was really a fascinating business example of a misunderstanding between what's a cultural problem and what's potentially just an efficiency data solution that could step in and resolve that.
I think this is this kind of a situation happens not only on the level you described, and it happens everywhere. I can tell you, so it happens everywhere. And this is a few things I always say. People, well, if you, I think referring to the other, I will bring back to the data science is a team sport. So what the situation you described is also you have to put on a holistic way of look at people and a process and a monitor and a validate. So that's, you have to bring them together. So just like you see, if it is culture problem, because they haven't been, perhaps I'm just guessing, they haven't been really exposed. The natural fear is if you bring something else, a new idea, a new technology, or new data in, and I'll be replaced. So, but that's naturally people, the people will always get say the first anything new or they don't know.
Yes.
And if they say, okay, into the fighting mode, right? So in the fighting mode, and they will be resistant. So that's what they say. But this is, I think, the more you are actually, that's quite often that it's very funny, I think, in a way, where I do the data science or I do data strategy, and then people ask me what's the challenge. I say change management, and bring people on the journey to have the mindset change or open mindset, be ready, and also not to be afraid. And we are not threatening anyone. We are just to bring everyone on the journey. And we're going to work toward the same goal and more efficiently. That's the part where I would say, that's quite often happen. It happened a lot. And you can see this same situation for data and analytics. They happen in the middle between business and technology, right? Yeah, so it's like, I would say sometimes I joke with people, say we are purple people because there is a blue group and it's a red group. So sometimes we sit with the group, we are green, and we were sitting with the blue group, and where often is technology, but we need to deliver the value, and which is the business side. So I say, there isn't something where you say, well, my team quite often ask me, say, hey, Catherine, we're in demand, but we just have too many things pulling us apart. They don't really have the marriage, they need a good marriage to put in one picture. I think, I think it is fascinating for me. I love data analytics because we get a chance to work in both sides.
And that's great. That's a great segue to this next question, which is this. If you have lost your job in 2020 and you are thinking and reading about data science, data analytics, the importance of this for the corporate sector, and you're thinking about reskilling, is there still time for somebody mid-career to make a shift and pivot to join, the team sport that you talk about? Or is it too late? Is it something that you have to do very early on, as soon as you get out of high school and do your undergrad and then start early? I don't know. There used to be a time when, only very young people were sort of considered for roles. I don't know if it's still the same.
I think this to your question is yes and no. So this is what the community. I worked with many volunteers, and finally we actually just soft launched our community over many years. We have been working only once a year, but now we have a community for supporting women in data science and analytics, and that is a part where we want to change career. And they always ask me, say, we are not the school students anymore, and we are either taking some courses online, and is this too late? My answer is no, never too late. So that's because but I ask them, why do you want to change? Okay, so that never be too late. And also, this is individual situations, very different. So if you are coming from art and you say, well, I want to change to data science. And my answer say, go for it. And but it will be harder now. Yeah, right. So
what would make more sense? What would make more sense? What professions are sort of an easier transition into data science?
I think a transition in data science and from the data analytics, so I'm talking about now COVID-19, because you frame the question as in 2020, right? We are in this reality. A lot of people, and I think maybe the number of Victoria unemployment was 7.5. And it went up ever record high. So this is unprecedented era, and we all here in a very, very uncertain environment. So I think with uncertainty we have, and my recent advice to people say, don't make dramatic change, because you are on the market where too many people are competing for the limited job. And so that's, I can see from many, it doesn't mean that you cannot change, right? So then back to your question is, which are the professions and easy to move into the data science? So data science is a broader case, and there you can be the data analyst. So from the business end, but you have been doing a lot of data, touching on the data. So that's, as there, it depends on where do you want to work in your data science, what part of the data science you want to work. And then, so it's a very theoretical part of model building, then perhaps you need to take longer. You know, it will take longer. You have to understand the algorithm. And also a lot of, there are statistically, it's not just by, I do an online course in 20 days and it will happen. So that will be hard. But if you are coming through a team where data engineers, a lot of data engineer, or maybe people who are working on the technology and they already play around with the data, then they can actually start tapping into the data engineer. Then from data engineer, you work with data science project, then you can get in, right? So that is, you already start building so from business side and from the technical side. So that's the part I would say. There's a few places, a few directions you can approach.
Yes. So I would summarize as this. So if you come from a background that has data already, it's a matter of just progressing into that. But if you're coming from something outside, it's a much bigger transition that would require a much bigger career transition, possibly a master's or even, you know, a longer time for you to transition into data analytics. But it would be an investment for, let's say, 10 years, right? It's something that you could do for a year, study, and then move into that profession with a longer term goal, not something that you can do right now for 2020.
Yes, and so often with my mentees, and I ask them, say, go to do a gap analysis. Now I'm very well known for the gap analysis now. So I asked them, actually I learned from one of my ex-colleagues as well to be specific, and that's a very systematic way to think through. So I say you do a gap analysis of what you are good at, right? What skill do you have? And what are the skills they listed on the job description? And also what part of the gap in how much effort you need to put in. So that's then you find somebody who are in that job and talk to them. It's you invested a lot, then you get into the job and they say, no, that's not what I want. So then this is not going, you won't feel happy. So that's the part where people really need to do a lot of homework at the moment.
Yes, I agree. And you do a lot of mentoring, and you have just set up Addis Tribe, as you mentioned before. And I have invited you on this podcast mainly because of all of the amazing posts that you do on LinkedIn with graphs that do explain a lot of statistics about the profession, and you do some analysis of gender and by country and by profession and by age, about how men and women progress in careers in data science. So what started that? What are those graphs yours? Do you put them together?
So yes, and so I worked with one of my mentee and a co-author, and so we scrap this data is a public data, and I always have been advocate for. I want to say, look, I am a female data scientist. When I came back came back to Australia 4 years ago, and we were talking about, okay, there are how many female in your industry, and they quite often they ask us, what is how hard to get a job, and where you are, and all this background. So that's the part where when I started working with my co-author, and so I said, okay, let's pull out this data. We are data professionals, and I love visualization because I love, as much as I love the analytical part where all the algorithms, to be honest with you, and then that is hidden. But eventually, what you produce, you need to tell a story. So unless you tell the story, and it's hard to get into people's head. And however, when you talk and when you are write articles, but I find if you visualize it, a lot of people, it's just a very visual. So if you put the visualization there, and people get it straight away, and they get the concept.
Yeah.
So and so we use a Tableau to build that, and did all the data manipulation. Then frames it's a long, actually it's a part-time project. It took a long time for us to pull out together.
I can imagine. And of all of the data that you've analyzed so far, comparing professions by gender and age in each country, what were the most surprising to you? What did you find out by manipulating and using that data that you didn't know before?
Oh, well, I think I think one thing I didn't know before is about the career, how active female data scientists compared to male data scientists on the job market and across industry and their activities.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the part. I find this is very interesting in a way. If you look at the technical skills, that's technical skills from what's the data we use the public survey data or from 2015 and to 2019, which is across different countries. And so female and people who actually put data scientists as their profession, they have higher educational backgrounds than male.
Right.
And overall, they have more technical skills in terms of programming. Yeah, overall, they have they have more technical skills, and then they have higher education background, qualification. But they're less. They get less paid compared to their male peers. And also, they're not active in terms of job hunting. If you look at one of the graphs, I put it there, for male data scientists and across different industries, it's just like a spider web and like snakes and all over. They try different things.
They are all over the place looking for work, and the women aren't.
No, women are not, and the women are stable, and they're only meant a few streams of this, approach. They're coming on, looking. They're very stable. And,
I remember that graph because I looked at it, and I wasn't wearing glasses, and even without glasses, I understood immediately what it meant. Because I was like, yes, this is exactly what I see. And I don't think that it is unique to data scientists. It's amazing that they don't invest in themselves that way and don't see their careers in the same way that men do. And I wonder if it's about the family or if it's something else. What do you think, based on the fact that you've been managing large teams of people for a long time?
Well, it is interesting to hear that you say this is not only the data science. Actually, for the data science field, I would expect it less than what I have seen from my chart, because people really for the group of people, especially female, to make it to data scientist field, it's not that easy. It's really, that's why he said, well, unicorns, right? And it's really, I think it's not that easy to get into the data science field, and especially during a certain time.
Yes.
And once you, so my impression was, my hypothesis was, okay, so they push so hard, and then they will be more aggressive.
Yeah.
But certainly is not as aggressive as men in the same field.
Oh, we are generalizing, of course. You know, I have wonderful female clients that are very proactive and very ambitious and have signed on the spot and all of that. But the majority of the time, women do tend to be reluctant about investing in their careers.
Yeah, and I think for data science, I can say something even from my own experience and from other people who I'm coaching, or I'm, not coaching, mentor. So for data science, especially, that's, you need invest a lot. It's not like I'm not saying that's a traditional profession. I'll give you an example, accounting, right? So the accounting, I'm not saying they don't put much effort, but when I talk to my friends and who we develop our career at the same time. And so she got a CPA, and so I didn't really get CPA. I didn't go for, but it's stable. So there are not many changes. Like, it is not going to today, and the taxation change, and marginal, right?
Good
and
point.
So, yeah, and so that the change, I tell you, so, well, the IT technology change is fast, right? The business and AD is quick. However, and amplified the degree of change if you do data science.
Right.
So to cope with the change, that if you don't really, at least it depends on where do you want to play, say, oh, I'm comfortable with, I know how to write this. Perhaps the one won't last long. And so if I remember one of my chart, and then there was like when women and a female and a male in the data science, I think around age 25 to 30, a lot of more female than male, right? And much more, and even compared to technology. And so there is perhaps is excitement, and they were really driven. However, once you move to the 35, perhaps it's the birth, children, family time, and then reduced dramatically.
Yeah.
And similar as others. But I was surprised to say, actually, there are much higher proportion for female compared to male in data science in that age group.
Okay. I think that to make it easier for people that are listening, I will post the illustrations on the episode show notes. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah.
Get that data there so that people can look at them and see what you mean and what we're talking about. That would be.
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking, because I while I'm working on that, I was working on each of dimension, each area topic, and I posted. I'm thinking I will consolidate all of them into one article so then people get a better picture.
Oh, that would be great. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
If you can do that in the next 2-3 weeks, that would coincide with
I would do that.
Going up. So that's great. The other thing that you did that was fantastic was a list of questions that people should ask employers when they go for job interviews. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought that that list was so good that even if you're not a data scientist, let's say you're a lawyer, you should just change the words and ask those same questions anyway. That's a great list. How did you come up with that?
Oh, thank you. And actually, I think where I did so many interviews.
Yeah.
I have done a lot of interviews myself, and I interviewed so many people.
Yes. So you've both been a candidate, and you've been a hiring manager as well.
Yes, and I push from both sides, and especially from the in the recent years. And the reason for that is I wish I could help the candidate better, and it is more because I know from my experience, and I I think I'm still helping a lot of my mentees to prepare for the interview and then provide the reference. And it's quite often they say, well, they don't really know what to ask. And also there is the way of, I thought, okay, if I, give you, I do think this is a two-way. Don't be too eager and of just jumping somewhere you don't want to stay, or you won't stay. So it is a beneficiary both. So benefits both sides.
Yeah.
So you're going to see the churn rate for data scientists stay in one organization is really, really high.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really, really high. So data scientists jump around, and there is a reason that is that quite often you can see, I would say you can attract candidates, but you'll be hard to retain them.
Right.
And so that's the part where I thought, well, this is a two-way where, and from the interview from the company, they can use this question to frame what they were, looking for and think about it. Maybe not many of them think through, but for the candidate, that is a good for them to get into this field. You get what you want, or less disappointment, or being more realistic what you're go for.
Yes, that's great for every profession, but I can imagine that especially for data scientists, that's really important for them, because for them more than for others, there's such high demand for them that they can pick and choose, like you said, and find the best fit for them so that they don't keep moving around as much. Yeah. Now tell me, how is working remotely going for data scientists? Is it easy to work from home when you have team spread out, working with data that's sometimes sensitive, working from home? Is that something that's sustainable?
I think, I work with a broader team. So my team had, for this current team, I don't really have many data scientists with us, that we just haven't built it yet. So I think most of the data professionals and I spoke to within the organization or beyond, or my peer, or my, other people who I know, looks like working okay. Yeah. And as long as as long as the system connectivity for the system where they can get hold of the data, they can use the software, and also they can understand the question, So I think I haven't really heard much complaint, be honest with you, from the data professionals. Yeah.
And Catherine, do you have any last advice or tips or ideas that you would like to share with the listeners, people that are looking for work? They could be the data scientists, or maybe they're just interested because they might work with data scientists. They might be colleagues or bosses of people that deal with data. Do you have any advice for them?
I think my advice is to be patient be patient if you want to do data science. It's not something like a learning few lines of code and you can become, you can pick it up straight away and then be a professional data scientist. And be patient and realistic. And then, so this is a part where they will need more investment compared to other professions. Mm-hmm. So the other part, I would say, don't be afraid. So that's don't be afraid. It not only doesn't matter what gender you are, So I will strongly also encourage that if I can use your platform as encourage more female, they use this time and then. So to learn, to get hands on the data, you may find it that is interesting, and then you don't have to have deep understand or the depth skills for data manipulation, all these skills, but you still can work on this direction. So in data science field. So the other thing I would say, the thing is you stay engaged. Stay engaged where is you will find some project to do, and by learning, or learning by doing. So if you just learn some concept and you don't do it, and I would say the more times I burn my hands, actually, the more learning and I gain.
Yes, I think that application of what you're learning is so important for new concepts, isn't it? Especially.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's a great advice.
Yeah.
I'm going to add to the episode show notes also a post that I just thought of, which you did, and it's a list of books that people can read. I'm going to add a couple of books to that. I will make a comment and add a few books as well.
Yes, you read so much, and I would love to have
I don't
list.
read a lot about data analytics, but I love data.
Oh, one thing I really want to say is we did some really good work. I do think so, and then now it's a project I work with another one of my mentee, and getting into this space, and then she is a very well established researcher already in the computer vision, but not exactly. We are still working on COVID-19. And so we published 2 articles already, and then one is looking at Australia's COVID and then compared to other countries. And then the second article we look at we published as what kind of measures is timing really matter. So we're working on another one. So that's hopefully can help people to
When do you sleep? I don't know. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you so much. And I will make sure all of those links are in the episode show notes so people can link with you and join Ada's tribe. Ada must be so proud that there is a social enterprise now named after her. You have to name another one after your son as well. Otherwise, there could be a fight there.
I know Liu said you cannot just do it for your daughter.
Yes. Nice talking to you, Catherine.
Yes. Yeah, really enjoyed chat.
I hope you found this episode useful and that it helps your job hunting and career plans. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on social media and on your favorite podcast app. And please join the Reset Your Career community so I can send you free tools and resources to make your career advancement more successful. See you next time.